The desperate hours Captain Marcus Rivera stood at the command center of Kepler Station, watching the red warning lights flash across every screen. The orbital platform orbited a barren moon in the Zeta Reticuli system, humanity's furthest military outpost. For 8 months, his 30 soldiers had held this strategic position against the relentless Vorthan raiders who wanted to claim this sector for their expanding empire. The Vorthans were a brutal species, standing 9 feet tall with armored exoskeletons and weapons that could melt through steel. They had been testing humanity's defenses for months, sending small attack groups to probe for weaknesses. But intelligence reports suggested something far worse was coming. A full assault fleet was gathering just beyond the asteroid belt. "Sir, we've lost contact with the supply convoy," reported Sergeant Blake Patterson, his weathered face grim. "They should have arrived 3 days ago." Marcus knew what this meant. No reinforcements, no medical supplies, no ammunition. They were completely alone, 30 humans against an enemy that outnumbered them 50 to 1. Private Danny Kim, barely 22 years old, looked up from his console. "Captain, long-range scanners are picking up movement. Looks like 3 ships approaching from the outer system." Marcus felt his stomach drop. If the Vorthans were coming early, they were finished. His men were exhausted, running on emergency rations, and their medical bay was nearly empty after treating casualties from the last raid. The unexpected arrival, but as the ships came closer, Marcus realized something was wrong. These weren't Vorthan vessels. The sleek, pearl-white ships moved with an elegant grace that seemed almost alive. They were unlike anything in the human fleet database. "Unknown vessels, this is Kepler Station," Marcus transmitted. "Identify yourselves immediately." A melodic voice responded, speaking perfect English with a strange accent. "Kepler Station, this is Medical Transport Serenity. We are the Zilari Healing Corps. We received your distress beacon and have come to provide aid." Marcus exchanged glances with his officers. They hadn't sent any distress beacon, and he'd never heard of the Zilari. The lead ship docked with surprising skill, and the airlock cycled open. What emerged made every human in the docking bay stop and stare. 3 beings walked through, clearly. Feminine in form, but utterly alien. They stood about 6 feet tall, with luminescent blue-silver skin that seemed to glow from within. Their features were delicate, yet otherworldly, with large violet eyes and flowing white hair that moved as if underwater. The leader wore a form-fitting suit that seemed to be made of living light, shifting between silver and blue. "I am Healer. Prime Vesa," she announced, her voice carrying an otherworldly quality. "These are my companions, Healer Liren and Healer Naya. We understand you face a great threat." Questions and suspicions. Marcus stepped forward, his military training keeping him alert despite the being's apparent peaceful nature. "With respect, we didn't call for help. How did you know we needed assistance?" Vesa's violet eyes studied him with an intensity that seemed to pierce through his soul. "The Zilari have monitored this sector for generations. We felt the pain of your wounded, the desperation of your situation. It calls to us." Sergeant Patterson whispered urgently, "Sir, this could be a trap, some kind of Vorthan trick." Marcus shared his suspicion, but looking at these graceful beings, he found it hard to believe they meant harm. "What exactly are you offering?" he asked. Healer Liren stepped forward, her movements flowing like water. "We offer healing for your wounded and strength for your defenders. The Zilari possess abilities that can enhance human physiology and repair damage at the cellular level." Her words sent a murmur through the assembled soldiers. "Enhanced how?" Marcus demanded. Naya, the youngest looking of the 3, smiled gently. "Your species possesses remarkable potential. With our help, your strength, speed, and healing can be increased dramatically. Your soldiers could become capable of feats you cannot imagine." Private Kim spoke up, his voice filled with hope. "Could you really help Corporal Jackson?" The medic said his injuries from the last attack. ... Quotes. Vesa nodded solemnly. "We can heal what your medicine cannot, but our aid comes with a price. Not currency or resources, but trust. Complete trust between our species." The weight of decision Marcus felt the weight of 30 lives on his shoulders. His men were looking at him with desperate hope in their eyes. They had been fighting a losing battle for months, watching friends die, knowing their deaths would be meaningless if the station fell. These Zalari offered a chance, but was it real? "The Vorthans will attack within days," he said slowly. "Our intelligence suggests they're bringing everything they have. We're outnumbered and outgunned." Vesa stepped closer, and Marcus caught a strange, sweet scent that reminded him of spring rain. "Then time is short. But know this, Captain Rivera. Humanity's courage has not gone unnoticed in the galaxy. Your species fights with a determination that inspires others." Healer Liren added, "The Vorthans believe might makes right. They see your small numbers and think you weak. They do not understand the strength that lies within the human spirit." Marcus looked around at his soldiers. These men had followed him across the galaxy, trusted him with their lives. Could he trust these alien healers with their future? "What exactly would this enhancement process involve?" he asked. Naya's expression grew serious. "Physical contact is required for the energy transfer. The closer the connection, the stronger the enhancement. It is not painful, but it is intimate. Our species shares life force through touch." The implications hung heavy in the air. Marcus realized this was about more than just medical treatment. These beings Understanding the Zillari, Marcus called his senior staff to the briefing room, leaving the 3 Zilari in the medical bay under careful guard. The discussion that followed was unlike any military planning session he'd ever conducted. "Sir, this goes against every protocol," Sergeant Patterson argued. "We don't know anything about these aliens or their real intentions." Lieutenant Jake Morrison, the station's intelligence officer, pulled up what little data they had. "I've run scans on their ships. The technology is centuries ahead of ours, but there are no weapon signatures. Their vessels seem designed purely for healing and transport." Technical specialist Rosa Martinez had been monitoring their communications. "They're not jamming our systems or trying to access our computers. If this is infiltration, it's the strangest approach I've ever seen." Marcus rubbed his temples, feeling the crushing weight of command. What about Corporal Jackson? The medics gave him 2 days at most. Jackson had taken a direct hit from a Vorthan energy weapon during the last raid. The blast had burned through his armor and caused massive internal damage. Their limited medical facilities couldn't help him. "Maybe that's where we start," suggested Dr. Helen Ward, the station's chief medical officer. "Let them try to heal Jackson. If they're legitimate, they'll save his life. If not, we'll know quickly enough." Marcus nodded slowly. It was a reasonable test, but the thought of allowing aliens to experiment on one of his men made his stomach turn. The first healing an hour later, Marcus stood in the medical bay, watching Healer Prime Visa examine Corporal Jackson. The soldier was barely conscious, his face pale and drawn with pain. "The damage is extensive," Vesa murmured, her violet eyes glowing slightly as she passed her hands over his body. "But not beyond repair." Dr. Ward monitored Jackson's vital signs while the other 2 Zilari took positions around the medical bed. "His cellular structure is deteriorating rapidly," Liren observed. "We must begin immediately." Naya placed her hands on Jackson's forehead, and Marcus saw her skin begin to glow with soft blue light. "What's happening?" Dr. Ward whispered as the monitor showed Jackson's vital signs stabilizing. Vesa looked up at Marcus, her expression intense. "We share our life force with him. It requires complete trust and openness. Will you permit this? Marcus looked down at Jackson, remembering the young man's laugh, his stories about his family back on Earth. Do it, he said quietly. What happened next defied everything Marcus thought he knew about medicine and biology. The three Zilari joined hands around Jackson. Their skin glowing brighter dot energy seemed to flow between them and the injured soldier. The monitors showed his heart rate strengthening, his breathing becoming deeper and more regular. But more amazingly, Marcus could see the burned and damaged tissue on Jackson's exposed arms beginning to heal. New skin growing over the wounds. Unexpected reactions. The healing process took 3 hours. When it was finished, Jackson sat up in bed, completely restored. But he looked different somehow. His eyes were brighter, his movements more fluid. When he flexed his hands, Marcus saw strength there that hadn't existed before. I feel incredible, Jackson said, wonder in his voice. It's like every cell in my body is supercharged. Dr. Ward ran her scanners over him, her expression growing more amazed by the moment. This is impossible. Not only are his injuries completely healed, but his physical capabilities seem enhanced across the board. Muscle density, neural response. Time, bone strength, everything is improved. Vessa looked exhausted but satisfied. The healing creates a permanent bond. Jackson now carries a small portion of Zilari life force within him. He will be stronger, faster, and more resilient than before. Marcus stared at the implications. If this was real, if they could enhance all his soldiers this way, they might actually have a chance against the Vorthans. But Healer Lyran's next words gave him pause. The process requires intimate physical contact to be most effective. Complete trust and emotional openness between human and Zilari. It cannot be forced or rushed. Marcus understood. This wasn't just medical treatment. It was asking his soldiers to form deep personal bonds with alien beings they'd known for less than a day. How many can you enhance before the attack? He asked. Naya looked uncertain. Each bonding drains us significantly. With rest between sessions, perhaps 10 enhancements total among the 3 of us. 10 enhanced soldiers out of 30. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Building trust over the next day, word spread through the station about Jackson's miraculous recovery. The soldiers were amazed, but also nervous about the implications. Private Kim approached Marcus privately. Sir, I'd like to volunteer for the enhancement. My little sister back on Earth is counting on me to come home. Marcus found himself in the unusual position of counseling his men about intimate contact with alien beings. The Zilari say it requires emotional openness. You have to genuinely trust them. Kim nodded seriously. If it means we can protect the station and get home alive, I'm willing to try. One by one, volunteers came forward. Not all of them, but enough. Marcus watched as each soldier went through their own internal struggle, weighing their fears against their desire to protect their comrades. The Zilari, for their part, spent time with each volunteer, building trust and understanding. Marcus noticed that Healer Prime Vessa often looked in his direction. There was something in her violet eyes, a sadness or longing that he couldn't identify. During a quiet moment, she approached him. You carry great weight, Captain Rivera. The responsibility for all these lives. It is a burden, I understand. How could you understand? He asked, not unkindly. She smiled softly. I am responsible for my people's safety as well. The Zilari are few in number, scattered across the galaxy. Every loss is felt deeply. Marcus realized that despite their different species, they shared the loneliness of command. Will you accept enhancement yourself? She asked quietly. Marcus hesitated. I need to focus on leading my men, not on personal enhancement. But even as he said it, he found himself drawn to this remarkable being who had traveled across space to help humanity in its darkest hour. The enhancement process. The first voluntary enhancement session took place in the station's meditation chamber, a small room originally designed for crew mental health. Private Kim lay on a specially prepared bed, while healer Naya knelt beside. Him, Marcus observed from a respectful distance, still trying to understand what his soldiers were going through. "Close your eyes and think of home," Naya instructed softly. "Think of those you wish to protect." Kim's breathing slowed as the Zalari placed her glowing hands on his chest. The blue light grew brighter, and Marcus watched in fascination as Kim's entire body began to emit a faint luminescence. The process was strangely beautiful. Unlike the clinical healing they'd performed on Jackson, this seemed more like a dance of energy between two beings. Kim's face relaxed into an expression of peace, and when Naya's hands moved to touch his face, he smiled. "I can feel it," he whispered, "like electricity in my veins, but warm." When the session ended an hour later, Kim stood up transformed. He moved with inhuman grace, and when he accidentally gripped the bed rail too tightly, the metal bent in his grip. "Sorry," he said sheepishly, but his eyes were bright with wonder. Dr. Ward's scans confirmed what they could see. Kim's physical capabilities had increased dramatically. Growing connections. Over the following days, more soldiers underwent the enhancement process. Each session created a unique bond between human and Zilari. Marcus noticed that the enhanced soldiers seemed calmer, more focused, but also more protective of their Zilari partners. Private Rodriguez became fiercely defensive of Healer Liren after his enhancement. "She shared something precious with me," he explained. "I won't let anyone disrespect that." The Zilari, meanwhile, seemed to grow stronger rather than weaker with each bonding. "Your species energizes us in return," Vesa explained to Marcus. "Humans possess such powerful life force, such determination. When we share energy, we also receive your strength of will." Marcus found himself spending more time with Vesa, discussing strategy and sharing stories of their respective peoples. She told him of the Zilari homeworld, a place of crystal cities and flowing energy streams. "We evolved as healers and peacemakers," she said, "but the galaxy is not always peaceful." "Is that why you came here? To fight?" Marcus asked. She shook her head. "We came to preserve. Humanity represents something unique in the galaxy, a combination of compassion and fierce determination. The universe would be diminished if you were to fall." Unexpected challenges, not everything went smoothly. Sergeant Patterson remained deeply suspicious of the Zilari and their motives. "This is changing our people," he argued during a private meeting with Marcus. "Look at them. They're becoming something other than human." Marcus had noticed the changes too. The enhanced soldiers moved differently, spoke with a strange new calm, and seemed to anticipate each other's actions. "Are we still human if we're this modified?" Patterson pressed. It was a question that haunted Marcus. Were they saving humanity or transforming it into something else entirely? When he raised these concerns with Vesa, her response surprised him. "Humanity's greatest strength is its adaptability," she said. "You take what you need from any situation and make it your own. The enhancements don't change who you are inside. They simply give you the tools to better express your true nature." To prove her point, she showed him recordings of the enhanced soldiers during off-duty hours. They were still themselves, laughing at the same jokes, worrying about the same things. The changes were physical, not spiritual. Besides, Vesa added with a slight smile, the bonds work both ways. "My sisters and I are also changed by contact with humans." The captain's decision with only a day before the expected Vorthan attack, Marcus faced a difficult choice. 10 of his soldiers were enhanced, but he needed every advantage possible. Vesa had offered to enhance him personally, but he'd been reluctant to undergo the process himself. Command decisions required clear thinking, not the emotional complications of an alien bond. But as reports came in of the massive Vorthan fleet approaching, Marcus realized he couldn't ask his men to take risks he wouldn't take himself. That evening, he found Vesa in the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. "I'd like to accept your offer," he said quietly. She turned to him with those luminous violet eyes. "Are you certain? The bond between us would be particularly strong. I sense great potential in you, Captain, but also great pain. You carry the weight of past failures." Marcus tensed. How could she know about the mission 2 years ago, when his previous command had been lost to a Vorthan ambush? "The enhancement will bring emotional openness," she warned. "Buried feelings may surface. Are you prepared for that?" Marcus looked out at the approaching enemy fleet, visible now as distant points of light. "I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to save my people." The captain's bond, the enhancement session between Marcus and Vesa, was unlike anything the others had experienced. As the Zilari healer placed her hands on his chest, Marcus felt layers of emotional armor he'd built over years of command beginning to dissolve. Memories flooded back, friends lost in battle, impossible decisions, the loneliness of leadership. But with the pain came something else, Vesa's own memories and emotions. He experienced her world through her senses, felt the deep sadness of watching other species destroy themselves through violence. He understood that the Zilari's mission wasn't just to heal bodies, but to heal the wounds that war inflicted on the soul. "You blame yourself for deaths that were not your fault," Vesa whispered as energy flowed between them. "Survival requires sacrifice, but it also requires hope." Marcus felt his own rigid self-control melting away, replaced by something both stronger and more flexible. When the enhancement was complete, Marcus stood transformed. The physical changes were dramatic, his strength and reflexes enhanced beyond human norms. But the emotional changes were even more profound. For the first time in years, he felt truly connected to another being, understood and accepted completely. "Now you carry part of me with you always," Vesa said softly. "And I carry part of you. No matter what happens in the coming battle, that bond cannot be broken." Marcus nodded, feeling a new kind of strength flowing through him. Not just physical power, but the courage that comes from knowing you're not alone. Final preparations with 12 hours until the Vorthan fleet's arrival. Kepler Station buzzed with frantic activity. The enhanced soldiers moved with supernatural efficiency, their increased speed and coordination allowing them to complete defensive preparations in record time. Marcus watched from the command center as Private Kim and 2 others installed heavy weapons that would normally require a full engineering team. "Sir, enhanced teams report ready on all defensive positions," Sergeant Patterson reported. Despite his earlier reservations, even he seemed impressed by the capabilities of the bonded soldiers. They worked together with an almost telepathic coordination, anticipating each other's needs without verbal communication. Dr. Ward approached with her latest medical reports. "The enhanced soldiers are showing remarkable adaptation to their new abilities. No negative side effects, and their physical capabilities continue to improve. It's as if the Zilari enhancements are awakening dormant potential in human DNA." Marcus nodded, feeling the truth of her words in his own transformed body. Every movement felt effortless. Every breath brought clarity and energy. But more than that, he could sense the emotional states of his enhanced soldiers, particularly those bonded to Vesa. It was like having a combat network that operated on empathy rather than technology. Understanding the enemy healer, Prime Vesa joined Marcus at the tactical display showing the approaching Vorthan fleet. 47 ships, she observed quietly. "They mean to make an example of this station." Her violet eyes held a sadness that spoke of too many worlds lost to violence. "Tell me about them," Marcus requested. "Your people must have encountered the Vorthans before." Vesa's expression darkened. "They are a warrior culture that sees compassion as weakness. They believe that might gives them the right to take whatever they desire. Many peaceful species have fallen to their aggression. Lieutenant Morrison pulled up intelligence files on Vorthan combat tactics. They prefer overwhelming force and intimidation. Standard doctrine is to demand surrender and attack anyway to demonstrate power. Marcus studied the tactical data, his enhanced mind processing information with startling speed. Their weakness is their arrogance, Vesa continued. They cannot conceive that a smaller force might match their strength. They will expect your 30 soldiers to cower and surrender when faced with their numbers. A fierce smile crossed Marcus's features. The Vorthans were about to learn something new about humanity. The Solari's secret as they finalized battle plans. Healer Lirin approached with troubling news. Prime Vesa, long-range sensors detect pursuit ships following the Vorthan fleet. They bear the markings of the Hegemony Council. Marcus saw Vesa's face pale, her luminous skin dimming with worry. "What's the Hegemony Council?" he asked. Naya answered, her young voice heavy with concern. "A coalition of species that views the Zilari healing abilities as a strategic threat. They believe we give unfair advantages to those we aid." The pieces clicked together in Marcus's enhanced mind. "That's why you came here. You're not just helping us, you're seeking sanctuary." Vesa nodded slowly. The council decreed that Zilari healing of primitive species constitutes interference in natural selection. We face exile, or worse if caught. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest, but it was tempered by the emotional balance the bonding had given him. "So you risked everything to help strangers." The courage these beings had shown humbled him. They had traveled across space, knowing they might never return home, just to aid humanity in its darkest hour. "Your species called to us," Vesa explained. "Through the bonds we've formed, we've learned that humans fight not just for survival, but for principles, for the idea that the strong should protect the weak, not prey upon them. This is worth preserving." "Unexpected alliances, dear." Ward burst into the command center with excitement radiating from her entire body. "Captain, you need to see this. The enhanced soldiers aren't just individually stronger. They're developing group coordination that defies explanation." She pulled up security footage showing the enhanced teams working together. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. "They're moving in perfect synchronization without any verbal or visual cues. It's like they're sharing a group consciousness." Marcus studied the footage, seeing what she meant. The bonded soldiers anticipated each other's actions with impossible precision. Vesa smiled knowingly. The bonds create a network effect. Each human connected to a Zilari becomes connected to all others in the network. Your enhanced soldiers share awareness and intent through us. Marcus realized the tactical implications immediately. His small force wouldn't just fight as individuals, but as a perfectly coordinated unit. "There's something else," Dr. Ward continued. "The non-enhanced soldiers are beginning to show sympathetic improvements. Being around the bonded humans seems to be triggering positive changes in the others as well." It was as if humanity itself was evolving, adapting to meet the threat through connection, rather than isolation. Private Rodriguez approached with a message tablet. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Vorthan fleet commander." Marcus accepted. The communication and a holographic image appeared showing a massive Vorthan warrior in ornate battle armor. "The Vorthan ultimatum. I am War Commander Thekmer of the 7th Conquest Fleet." The alien growled, his voice like grinding metal. "You will surrender this station immediately and submit to Vorthan authority. Resist, and we will demonstrate why lesser species fear our might." Marcus stepped forward, feeling the strength of his bonds with both his soldiers and the Zilari flowing through him. "This is Captain Marcus Rivera of the Terran Defense Force. This station is under human protection. Any attempt to take it will be met with force." Thekmer's laugh was like the sound of breaking stone. 30 humans against 47 war vessels? Your species' arrogance exceeds even your stupidity. You have 1 hour to evacuate before we claim this station by right of conquest. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Marcus looked around at his people, human and Zilari alike, seeing determination in every face. Sergeant Patterson, sound general quarters. All enhanced teams to battle stations. This is what we've been preparing for. As alarms echoed through the station, Vesa placed her hand on Marcus's shoulder. Through their bond, he felt her complete faith in him and his people. Show them what humanity truly is, she whispered. Show them that courage and unity can triumph over mere brutality. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of not just his own species' future, but the survival of the Zilari as well. The coming battle would determine whether compassion and cooperation could stand against the forces of conquest and tyranny. As he watched his enhanced soldiers take their positions with inhuman grace and perfect coordination, he allowed himself a moment of fierce pride. The Vorthans were about to discover that humanity's greatest strength wasn't individual power, but the bonds they formed with others. The first wave, the Vorthan attack, began exactly as predicted. 47 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapons designed to terrorize and overwhelm. War Commander Thekmer's voice boomed across all frequencies. Witness the futility of resistance against Vorthan might. Marcus stood in the command center, his enhanced senses tracking every ship movement, while simultaneously feeling the readiness of his bonded soldiers through their shared connection. All enhanced teams report ready, Sergeant Patterson announced, his voice steady despite the impossible odds. The station's defensive grid activated, projecting energy shields that would normally last minutes against this level of firepower. But the enhanced soldiers manning the power stations pushed the systems beyond their design limits, their supernatural strength and coordination allowing them to maintain maximum output. First wave incoming, Lieutenant Morrison called out as dozens of Vorthan fighters screamed toward the station. Marcus felt rather than saw his enhanced soldiers respond. Through the bond network, 12 humans moved as a single organism, their weapons tracking targets with inhuman precision. Impossible coordination, what happened next defied every tactical manual in existence. The enhanced soldiers didn't just fight well individually, they fought as a perfectly synchronized unit. Private Kim's position took fire from 3 directions. But soldiers 2 sections away were already providing covering fire before Kim even realized he was in danger. Dr. Ward monitored the battle from the medical bay, her scanners showing energy patterns that shouldn't exist. The Zilari bonds are creating a tactical awareness network, she reported in amazement. Each soldier knows not just their own situation, but everyone else's simultaneously. The first wave of Vorthan fighters hit the station's defenses like a tsunami hitting a seawall. But instead of breaking, the defenses held and struck back with impossible accuracy. Enhanced human reflexes guided by shared awareness created a defensive pattern that seemed almost prescient. War Commander Thekmer's fury was audible across the communication channels. Impossible. How do 30 humans coordinate like a hive? Mind? Marcus smiled grimly. The Vorthans understood individual strength and pack tactics, but they'd never encountered humans bonded together by alien empathy. The Zilari's sacrifice, as the battle intensified, Marcus realized the true cost of their advantage. Through his bond with Vesa, he felt the strain the network was placing on the 3 Zilari healers. They were serving as living conduits for the enhanced humans' shared awareness, channeling massive amounts of psychic energy. Vesa, you're burning yourselves out, he warned during a brief lull in the fighting. The healer prime's luminous skin had dimmed noticeably, and her movements showed exhaustion. We knew this might happen, she replied calmly. The network Effect amplifies with each connection. Maintaining it for 30 humans exceeds our normal capabilities. Healer Liren collapsed at her station, her energy completely depleted from maintaining the bonds. But instead of weakening the network, something remarkable happened. The enhanced soldiers began supporting the system themselves, their human will and determination feeding back through the connections to strengthen the remaining Zilari. They're learning to maintain the bonds independently, Dr. Ward observed. In wonder, the humans are taking over portions of the network from the Zilari. It was evolution in real time, two species becoming something greater together than either could be alone. Turning the tide, the second wave of attacks brought Vorthan boarding parties directly to the station. Massive transport ships docked forcibly, with the outer sections disgorging hundreds of 9-foot-tall warriors in powered armor. This was where the Vorthans expected their physical superiority to end the battle quickly. Instead, they encountered enhanced humans who moved like ghosts and hit like hammers. Private Rodriguez, bonded to Healer Liren, faced off against 3 Vorthan warriors simultaneously. His enhanced speed let him dance between their weapon strikes while his increased strength allowed him to tear through their armor with his bare hands. But it wasn't just individual prowess that turned the tide. The enhanced soldiers fought with perfect teamwork, appearing exactly where they were needed when they were needed. When Corporal Jackson found himself surrounded, 2 other soldiers materialized from different corridors to strike at the exact moment his enemies were vulnerable. The Vorthans, used to overwhelming their enemies through size and ferocity, found themselves facing opponents who seemed to anticipate their every move. Worse, the humans' unconventional tactics confused warriors trained in rigid battlefield doctrine. The final Gambit War Commander Thekmer, faced with the impossible sight of his boarding parties being repelled by a handful of humans, made a decision born of rage and desperation. All ships target the station's core. If we cannot take it, we will destroy it and everyone on it. Marcus felt the targeting locks engaging through the station's sensors. 47 warships preparing to fire simultaneously would vaporize Kepler Station instantly. But through his bond with Vesa, he sensed something else. The approaching Hegemony Council ships had finally arrived and were moving to intercept. "Attention Vorthan fleet," came a new voice across the communications. "This is Counselor HFY of the Hegemony Enforcement Division. You are interfering with Council operations. Withdraw immediately." What followed was a 3-way standoff that Marcus used to his advantage. While the Vorthans and Council ships faced off, he ordered his enhanced soldiers to launch every remaining fighter and assault shuttle. The small craft, guided by enhanced human pilots moving with supernatural coordination, struck at the Vorthan flagship. Victory and transformation. The battle's end came suddenly. Faced with both human resistance and Council intervention, War Commander Thekmer chose discretion over valor. The Vorthan fleet withdrew, their ships limping away with damage they'd never expected to receive from such a small force. But the victory came at a cost. Of the 3 Zilari healers, only Vesa remained conscious, her companions having exhausted themselves, maintaining the battle network. However, something unprecedented had occurred during the fighting. The enhanced humans had learned to maintain their bonds independently, creating a permanent network of shared awareness. "We're changed forever," Marcus realized, looking at his soldiers. They moved with continued supernatural grace, but more importantly, they remained connected to each other in ways that transcended normal human experience. They had become something new, not less human, but more than human. Dr. Ward's final medical reports confirmed the transformation. The enhancement process appears to be self-sustaining now. The soldiers retain all their improved capabilities, and the bond network continues to function, even without active Zilari maintenance. New beginnings. As the Hegemony Council ships approached to claim the Zilari, Marcus made a decision that would change both species forever. The Zilari healers are under human protection, he transmitted to the Council vessels. They've formed permanent bonds with my soldiers. To separate them would cause irreparable harm. It was a bluff based on partial truth, but backed by the demonstrated power of human Zilari cooperation. The Council, having witnessed 30 enhanced humans defeat a vastly superior force, chose negotiation over confrontation. In the weeks that followed, Kepler Station became something unique in the galaxy. A joint human-Zilari colony where two species learned to live and grow together. The enhanced soldiers became the first of a new kind of human, one capable of forming deep empathic bonds across species lines. Marcus, his bond with Vesa having evolved into something between partnership and love, stood on the observation deck watching ships arrive from both human and Zilari space. Word of their victory had spread, inspiring others to seek the same kind of cooperative enhancement. What have we become? Vesa asked, her violet eyes reflecting the stars. Marcus smiled, feeling the connection to his soldiers, and to her, flowing through him like a river of shared strength. Something the galaxy has never seen before, he replied. Something worth fighting for. The 30 human soldiers who had once faced hopeless odds had become the foundation of a new kind of civilization, one built on the radical idea that different species could become stronger together than they ever were apart. And in a galaxy torn by conquest and fear, that idea would spread like wildfire among those who dreamed of a better future.